Hey guys, man, I miss you guys so much. It's crazy. I can't believe it's been so long since I've seen all of you. I'm going to do a Flipgrid sometime this week, and I'll post it midweek sometime so that I can see your guys' faces and I can pop in and say hi. And I'm going to start doing some Google Meets. So let me know what works for you guys. And we can start doing that too, because I just really want to see you guys. I really want to see your faces and check in with you and make sure you're okay. And yeah, so that'll be a little later during the week. Okay, so you don't have to watch this whole thing if you understand it right away. This is completely for your benefit, your help. Okay, so factor the following expression completely. All right, so this looks like this. I don't know why it makes shapes like that. Okay, so ax squared plus bx plus c. So you should at least recognize that. We've done this before. I know that these are y squared and y, but that's okay. X squared, x, as long as they have a squared term, which is this too, right? They have a term without a square that's just all by itself. And then you see how this 48 is alone? It doesn't have a y next to it. This c is alone. It doesn't have any x next to it. So these letters can change, just like these numbers can change. The thing that stays the same is this 2 up here, the fact that there's like a 1 up here, and then there's no x's over there, right? There's no x there. Okay, so let me take away some of that so you can just see it for how it is. So it should always match that form. Now, if it matches that form, we can do something called factoring, okay? So I'm going to look for a, b, and c, and I know we labeled a, b, and c before. Remember, if there's nothing in front of that y squared, it's a 1. So a equals 1, b equals 14, and c equals 48. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find something that multiplies, so two numbers that multiply to a times c, and two numbers that add to b every single time. So always start with, the first step is to find a times c. So the first step, a times c, and I'm going to look here. My a is 1 and my c is 48. So 1 times 48 is 48. Okay. Step 2 is just write what b is. So b is 14. So I need to find two numbers that multiply. So let me rewrite this out with the actual numbers. So this is kind of like your, just like the formula, if you want to think of it that way. So I'm going to write it out now using that. And I'm going to do, let me not do red. I'm going to do something times something equals, what's my a times c now? Well, I figured out 8 times c is 48. So equals 48. And then that same number plus that other number that we found above that we're going to find equals 14, right? Because equals b, and b here is 14. So I'm just substituting in now, okay? All right, so the first thing we need to do is find something that multiplies to 48. So what things multiply to 48? Well, 48, we have 1 times 48, right? We have 2 times 24. Okay, I'm going to use my calculator. 48, I think it's 16 divided by 3. Yes, 3 times 16. 4 times 12. And we have 6 times 8. Do you see how 7 doesn't go into it, but you see how 8 goes into it? And I can do 8 times 6. I can also do 12 times 4. We don't have to write those again. You see how these match? These match. We don't have to write them backwards. So once you get to the point where, oh, wait a minute, the next number I can do is 8, and that already is matched up here by 8 times 6 or 6 times 8, you stop. So these are all the factors of 48. You need to find one that adds up to 14. So let's see, 1 plus 48 is 49. So that doesn't work. 2 plus 24 is 26. So that doesn't work. 3 plus 16 is 19. So that doesn't work. 4 plus 12 is 16, so that doesn't work. And 6 plus 8 is 14. So this checks off. So this is what we're going to do. 6 times 8 is 48. And you know what? I don't like that I did x's here. I'm going to do a little dot because x now in algebra 2 definitely means the variable. So I'm just going to do a dot. So we do 6 times 8 is 48, and then 6 plus 8, notice these are always the same numbers, is 14. Okay, now here's the cool thing. When we have a 1 for the a, so what am I talking about right here? When we have a 1 in front of that y squared, when a is 1, we can do a trick. Now next week, we're not going to have a equal 1, so it's going to be different. That's why I'm making such a big deal of this. When a equals 1, we can do something really simple. We look for the variable they used, which is y in this case, right? So we're going to do y, put a parenthesis, y, and you're going to take these two numbers that you found, 6 and 8, and you're going to do plus 6, it's a positive 6, and then it's a positive 8. That's your answer, and that's how we factor. Now, I want to show you that when you multiply those, you get back to y squared plus 14y plus 48. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can write it smaller. If I multiply here, y times, so remember this is FOIL, right? When you have two, they're called binomials when you have two pieces, so here and here. You're going to multiply it, y, let me use a different color. So we're going to do y times y, which is y squared, not 2y. Remember y plus y is 2y. Y times y is y squared. Y times 8 is 8y. Always put the number first and the letter after. 6 times y is 6y. And 6 times 8 is 48. Now, do you see how we can combine like terms? I can't combine anything with y squared, so that's y squared. 8y plus 6y is 14y plus 48. Do you see how this matches our original problem? So we're not changing anything, we're just rearranging things, okay? So it's asking to factor. When it asks to factor, this is what we do, okay? When we want to ask to factor, and this is what the problem looks like this is what we do. So let's try another one. So the directions again are factor. So let's look back at our steps. We're gonna, because we're trying to follow that. That's our formula, right? We need to first make sure it's in that form, and it is. Ax squared plus bx plus c, right? So that's telling me a is 1, b is 3, and c is negative 40. Okay. So we'll do a is 1, b is 3, and c is negative 40. All right, so now we're going to follow our steps here. We have to find a and c, and we have to find b. So 1 is a times c, and a times c is 40, because we have 1 times, oh, no it's not, it's negative 40, I'm sorry, because we have 1 times negative 40, right, which is negative 40. I'm going to write the negative next to the 40, negative 40. Okay, now my second step that we did up here, we found out what b was, so b was 14 here, right? We don't have to do anything with it, we just write it down. B is 3 in this case. Okay, now we're going to do this piece right here. So I'm going to say, okay, something times something has to equal a times c. So blank times blank equals, well, what was a times c? Negative 40. Okay, and then something plus that same number equals b, which is 3. Because see up here, something plus something has to equal b, and my b here was 3. Okay, we're going to do the factors of 40. So I'm going to do negative 40, sorry, I keep saying positive 40, but it's negative 40. Okay, so we have 1 times negative 40. Now, with this one, we can switch the negative, so negative 1 times 40, right? And if you want to check as you go, you can. That way you don't have to go all the way down. Sometimes it'll be the last number anyways. Like up here, it was the very last number. Also, if you know right away, you don't have to list all these out. But I'm just showing you how to do it in case you don't understand, right? So put this in a calculator. Actually, let's do it at the end. Okay, 2 times negative 20 is negative 40. And negative 2 times 20 is negative 40. Now, if you're not sure, put negative 40 in your calculator and start dividing. So we know 1 times itself, right? Also divide by 2. Then try and divide by 3. So 40 doesn't go into 3, it's a decimal. So do 40 divided by 4. So 4 times 10. We have to make one of them negative, and then we'll switch it around as well. So this time it's different. I have to write the numbers twice because it has to be a negative 40 when we multiply, right? So we can't make both of them positive because a positive times a positive is not a negative. In this case, we only wrote all the numbers once, like this, because we're trying to make a positive 48. So, okay. Let's see. Next one. So, 5 times 8. So I'm going to do 5 times negative 8 and negative 5 times 8, and that's it. 6 doesn't go into 40, 7 doesn't go into 40, and 8 goes into 40, but now we're flipping around again, 8 times 5, so we don't need to go any farther. That's all we can do. So this is all of our possible options. Now, if we're trying to make a 3, we're probably going to be somewhere down here, right? So I'm just for the sake of time, you can subtract all of these, but I'm gonna just start from here. So from here, so negative 4 plus 10 is 6. Okay, that doesn't work because we need a 3. 4 minus 10 is negative 6. That doesn't work because we need a 3. 5 minus 8 is negative 3. Okay, but negative 5 plus 8 is a positive 3. So that checks off. So those are our two numbers. We have negative 5 times 8, and we have negative 5 plus 8. And then check it really quick. Negative 5 times 8 is negative 40, so that works. Negative 5 plus 8 is 3, so that works. So the last part is easy. X, because we used x in this case, so x minus 5, x plus 8. And then we can multiply to check. X times x is x squared. X times 8 is 8x. Negative 5 times x is negative 5x. And negative 5 times 8 is negative 40. And we can combine like terms, so x squared plus 3x minus 40. And that is the same as this. So we got that one right. So if you want to double check, I would recommend doing that. But your final answer in MyOpenMath is this. So don't multiply it out and then put that as the answer, right? That's what we started with. Okay. I only did 4 of them. You know what? I'm going to move this one down. X squared minus 17x plus 70. Okay. Now this one, again, we have to write, the first step is writing out. The first step here is writing out A times C, and then write what B equals. So first step, A times C. Second step, B. Okay, let's write out A, B, and C. So the number in front of y squared is 1. So A is 1, B is negative 7, and C is negative 30. So A times C is 1 times negative 30, which is negative 30. B, we just read it how it is, which is negative 7. By the way, there's a reason we multiply A times C. I know in this case it's always going to be whatever C is, but next time it won't be. So that's why. This is only when A equals 1. Don't forget that. Okay, so now we're going to write out like our little formula. Something times something has to equal A times C. Oh, and instead of writing A times C, instead of writing the X, I'm going to do a dot. Okay, A times C is negative 30. Okay, so, and then something plus that another number has to equal B. So one number plus the other number has to equal B. In this case, it's negative 7. And then we're going to find the factors of negative 30. Okay, so in this case, we know 1 times negative 30. negative 1 times 30. We know 2 times negative 15. Negative 2 times negative 15. Again, find this in, oops, nope. Negative 2 times 15. Remember, we're making one of them negative because when we multiply, we have to get a negative number. So negative times a positive is a negative. Okay, if we divide 30 divided by 3 is 10. So I'm going to do negative 3 times 10 and 3 times negative 10. We can't divide 30 by 4, but we can divide 30 by 5, which is 5 times 6. I'm going to make one of them negative and then write the same two numbers and make the other number negative. And we're trying to get a negative 7. So here we go. Now we're going to add them. So 1 minus 30 is going to be negative 29. That's not our b. That's not what we're trying to get. Negative 1 plus 30 is 29. That's not what we're trying to get. 2 minus 15 is negative 13. Negative 2 plus 15 is 13. Nope. Okay. 10 minus 3, or negative 3 plus 10, is 7. We're close, but we need a negative 7, right? So that's not right, but this one's going to work. 3 minus 10 is negative 7. That checks off. So that's going to be our answer. 3 times negative 10 is negative 30, and that's true. And 3 plus negative 10 is negative 7. Now, if you have that plus negative, just get rid of the plus, right? We don't need that now. We know it's 3 minus 10 is negative 7. And this is the easy part. We started off with y, so we're going to do y and put our two numbers. We have a y and a positive 3, and we have a y and a negative 10. I'm not going to multiply it out this time, but you can if you want, and you're going to get that same answer up here. Like I said, if you look at this negative 30 and you're like, oh, that's 3 times 10 and that gets you a 7, and you just have to make one of them negative, you don't have to write all this out. But I think it just helps to see what we're doing. Okay, so write it out if you need to. All right, so first step is A times C. Second step is B. Let's write out A, B, and C. A is 1. B is negative 17. And C is 70. Right, so A times C is 1 times 70, which is 70. And B is negative 17. All right, so now we're going to do our formula. We have one number times another number should give us A times C, which is 70. And then that same number above plus that same number above is going to give us negative 17. Okay, so we always find the factors of 70 first, the one that's on the top, right? The one that it's multiplying to. This time I'm going to do it over here, 70. Okay, so we have 1 times 70. Okay, now here's another thing. You see how we're trying to get a negative now? So always pay attention to your B term. Let me show you up here. The very first problem, do you see how we're trying to multiply to a positive number and we're trying to add to a positive number, right? So we know that positive 6 plus positive 8 is going to give us positive 14. A positive number and a positive number will always give you a positive number, right? When you add and when you multiply. In this case, we need a positive number when we multiply something, but we need a negative number when we add something. So let's think about that. How do I get a positive number when I multiply something? Well, let's just say 7 times 10, because we all know that's 70, right? Well, how would I get, I think I just told you the answer here, but that's fine. How would I get a negative 17 from this? Because I know 10 plus 7 is 17, right? When I multiply. But I need to multiply two numbers to still make it positive 70. That is not 17. I'm sorry, you guys. That's 70. I was adding them. Okay, but if I do 7 plus 17, because that checks off, we're like, oh, cool. That makes 70. But then 7 plus 10, what am I doing? Sorry, you guys, is 17. We need a negative 17, right? So instead of doing 7 plus 10, could we do negative 7 minus 10? Now, does that equal a negative 17? Yes. Remember, if I take $7 from you and I take $10 more from you, I took a total of $17. I always use that weird analogy because I think you guys remember that kind of stuff. So -7 minus 10 is -17. You add those two numbers and keep the sign, right? I took 7 from you. I took 10 more. I took 17. Okay, so that works. That's how I got a -17 from those numbers. What about -7 times -10? Because remember, the numbers have to be the same. Well, a negative times a negative is a positive, right? So this is what I'm trying to say. If this number is a positive number and this number is a negative number, you're going to have to make both of your terms negative. Okay, this is what I mean. Do you see how I started over here? This is a negative times a negative. That would give me a positive 70, but it would also give me a negative 71. That's not a negative 17, but it did give me a positive number when I multiplied and a negative number when I add, right? So it's positive 70 when I multiply, and it's negative 71 when I combine them, okay? Now, if I did, let's see, 2 would work. 2 times 35. I need to make both of them negative, and I'd get positive 70 when I multiply and negative 37 when I add. Again, that's still not negative 17, which is what we're trying to get, but we did get a negative number when we added them together. Okay, -5. Okay, -5 times -14. That'll also give us a positive 70, but a negative 19. We're getting close, but that's not it yet. So -7 times -10 is 70, and when we add them together we get -17. So these are our numbers here. Okay, so if you see that right away, you don't have to do these steps. I'm just showing you how to do it in case you don't know right away. Okay, and then -7 plus -10 is -17. Remember, we can erase this little piece, and then this is our answer. We used an x this time, so x minus 7 times x minus 10, and then that's your answer. Now, I did one that was similar to all of your problems on MyOpenMath. So try those using the video notes. If you still don't understand it, email me. I can either do a Google Meet with you, or I can send you a video note of just that one problem so you can see exactly how to do it. Okay, so email me with a